Hello all out there in YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I'm doing a Ramble review for you all today. It's been a very busy few weeks, as you've learned from my two previous videos. A lot of dogs to take care of, and I've been editing the videos for October, because this October I'm going to be counting down my 31 favorite horror movies from the 1980s. So let me take a minute to shamelessly whore myself out. As you remember, last year I counted down my favorite 1970s horror movies, so this year for October I'm counting down my favorite 1980s horror movies, and working on that right now, so it's been a very busy week, so I just wanted to do a simple video for this week, just because I needed a little bit of a break. But anyway, I still wanted to do a video for you guys, so here we have a Ramble review. This is the series, for those new to my channel, where I talk about a new horror movie that just came out and give my fresh thoughts on it. And it does get a little rambly, so hopefully you're entertained by rambling. So today we're talking about Ti West's brand new horror movie, his second new horror movie from this year, Pearl. As many of you know, this is the prequel to X, which came out earlier this year. So I did a review on X. If you want to know my thoughts on X, just go check out that video. But quick little update here. I loved it. I absolutely loved X when I first saw it. It was a fantastic slasher movie. It was a fantastic movie in general. And a lot of people seem to really like that movie. And it turned out that at the end of the credits, after the ending credits rolled for X, there was a preview for Pearl, which was a prequel to X, where it followed the villain of X. The main villain in X is this old woman called Pearl, and the movie Pearl is basically showing how she became the person she was, how she basically went insane. I had no idea about this post-credit preview, because when I went to go see X, like I said, I loved the movie, but once the credits started to roll, I had to get out of the theater because I really had to take a piss. Which should show how good X was. I had a full bladder and continued to watch the movie because I didn't want to miss anything. So once the credits rolled, I had to get out of the theater real quickly, so I completely missed the trailer, and I didn't find out about this trailer for Pearl until like a week after I had seen the movie. But that's a very interesting way to do things. Okay, so they made the movie X, and they essentially made the prequel pretty much around the same time as they made X. And that's a pretty ballsy move. I mean, to make a prequel for a movie around the same time as that movie, you have to have a lot of confidence to essentially make a sequel in secret and have that come out the same year as the other movie. I mean, X was very, very good, but if you think about it, X was well received by horror fans. I am not the only horror fan who loved the movie. There are many horror fans who love X. But if X was not that well received, what would you do with Pearl? I mean, the confidence that Ti West and everyone involved in X had to have to make a prequel around the same time, and have that feeling that people would not only like X, but want to see the prequel and a continuation, or at least an origin for the character of Pearl, that's a very gutsy move. And you have to admire the balls on both Ti West and the ovaries on Mia Goth, because Mia Goth was in love with this character and helped Ti West write the script for Pearl. So you have to admire the guts that Ti West and Mia Goth had to make this prequel around the same time as X, because again, they had no idea if X was going to be successful or not. And luckily, X was successful, so people were intrigued by this prequel. So yeah, I really admire the confidence of both Ti West and Mia Goth in making this particular movie. Especially having your prequel come out the same year as your big movie, X. So I went into this movie like I always do. I like to keep my expectations in check. That's why I never do a video talking about my most anticipated horror movies of the year, just because I like to keep my expectations in check, and I like to be surprised by stuff. So I went into Pearl loving X, and hoping that it would be, if it were half as good as X, I would be happy with that. But, I have to say, as much as I loved X, I think I like Pearl a little more. Now, X was a fantastic slasher movie, a fantastic movie in general, but looking at it as a slasher movie, it's one of the best slasher movies we've gotten in recent years. And Pearl is not a slasher movie. It's, like I said, it's the origin story of how the old woman in X became the deranged maniac that she is. So, you look at Pearl, it's so different from X. X is a 70s period piece and trying to make a slasher movie, whereas Pearl, again, it's a period piece. It takes place in 1918, and it doesn't feel like a slasher movie. It doesn't feel like a gritty 70s movie. It feels like a movie that would come out in the 30s or 40s. And that's very impressive, to capture the feel of each decade when these two movies take place. And the thing about Pearl is, like I said, it's not a slasher movie. It fits very well with X, but it stands on its own. It's not trying to be X. It's a descent into madness movie. And if you've been on my channel, you've heard me rave about how much I love Descent into Madness movies. Because for me, Descent into Madness movies are some of the most suspenseful movies out there. You have a character that's going insane, and you know they're going to do something bad. It's just a matter of when and what are they going to do. And that's what we have here with the character of Pearl. Mia Goth plays Pearl in this movie, and she played the main character Maxine in X and Pearl in that movie in old age makeup. So she played both the final girl and the villain at the same time, and she did a great job. I had no idea that Mia Goth played Pearl until a little after the movie when I heard somebody mention that, and I said, no shit, when I found out about that, which shows how great her performance is in X, both of these performances. And now she's playing a younger version of this character without all the old age makeup on. This character of Pearl feels so different from the character of Maxine, even though it's the same face, okay? You have Mia Goth playing Maxine in X and Pearl, well, Pearl in X as well, but Pearl in Pearl. It's the same actress, but both performances are so different and both characters are so different that you see Mia Goth playing both these characters, but she disappears in both roles. And that's very impressive for a movie that's essentially in the same series as X, to have Mia Goth playing another character and having her face on screen so much, but having her get lost in that role is very impressive. And like I said, Pearl is a descent into madness movie. We're watching Pearl go insane. We know that she's going to become the psychotic woman that we see in X, but this shows how she becomes that psychotic woman. So the movie takes place in 1918, and Pearl wants to become a star. She wants to become famous. She lives a life on this farm with her mother, who is this very cold, domineering woman, and her father is very ill. Her father is so ill to the point where he cannot move. He's in a wheelchair, he can't talk, he can't lift his arms, obviously he can't walk. So essentially Pearl and her mother have to do everything for the father. And the father was played by Matthew Sunderland, and you gotta give it up for this guy, because again, he's playing essentially someone who's completely paralyzed in a wheelchair who can't move. He's not talking, again, he's not moving. The only thing he's acting with is these. He is only acting with his eyes, and he's doing a fantastic job acting with his eyes. This is some of the best eye acting I've seen in so long. Because again, you have this guy in a wheelchair, not talking, not moving, but he's getting across so much with just his eyes. It's a very impressive performance. And then you have Pearl's mother, who, like I said, is a very cold woman, and you can tell she kind of resents Pearl, because she is living a life that she doesn't really want, so she feels like Pearl owes her something and needs to stay on the farm, but Pearl wants to get away from the farm. Pearl is married, and her husband went off to fight the war, so you know, she was marrying him with the intent of wanting to get away from the farm, but now she can't get away from the farm, and so this idea of being famous is, in her mind, her only way to escape this life that she does not want. And that's kind of driving her crazy. You can tell that she already has some mental problems, but you know, like, with this desperation to get away from the farm, and her mother constantly hounding her, and, like I said, acting resentful towards her, you can see Pearl's sanity deteriorate throughout the film, and you know it's going to build to a head, and you know it's going to end in a very bloody way. But the whole thing builds and builds and builds until it gets to the violence, and there is some good kills in this movie, not too many of them. And there is blood involved in these kills. It's not as bloody as X. X wasn't too bloody, but it did have some great kills in that one. The kills in Pearl are not that bloody, but they are very effective, because we've built up to them throughout this film, showing Pearl descend into madness, and then when she finally snaps and she finally starts shedding some blood, it's so much more hard-hitting. It does a good job at having us sympathize with Pearl, but being afraid of her at the same time. Because we know what she's like in X, but we see her in this situation, we see her desperation to get out of this farm, we see how her mother treats her, and you know, watching this is like, oh yeah, it's not surprising that you've become this fucked up. And it does have some connection to X, but you don't need to see X to enjoy this movie. Pearl and X stand on their own. You can watch both of them separately and enjoy them, but watching them together only enhances both movies. They're great movies on their own, and together they're even better. And Ty West has mentioned that there is a third movie coming out called Maxine, where we're following the character Maxine from X, and it's supposed to take place in the 80s. And you know, let's see, X was so great, and Pearl is so great. If Maxine is half as good as Pearl and X, this could make for one of the best horror movie trilogies. Because the quality of these movies is so good, and if they nail Maxine, I'll be happy if Maxine is half as good as either one of these movies. But if they really nail Maxine, then this will probably become one of my favorite horror movie trilogies. But they should stop after Maxine. I've heard there's talks that Ty West wants to make a fourth movie in the series. I hope that's just rumor, because you don't want to, you know, go too much, you know. Do Maxine and then end the series there. You know, if you can get that high ending with Maxine, then this trilogy will be almost perfect. Or could even be perfect. Well, that's pretty much all I have to say about Pearl. I do apologize for having a Ramble review for you guys this week instead of actual polished review. Like I said, it's been very busy, and I wanted to keep editing my ranking series for October, and so that is coming up. I hope you all enjoy that. But anyway, yeah, so if you have seen Pearl, please leave your comment down below of what you thought of Pearl. If you haven't, by all means, go see it. It's a fantastic horror movie. And if you have seen Pearl, which one do you like better? Do you prefer X or do you prefer Pearl? I love both movies, but the edge goes to Pearl a little more just because I love Descent into Madness movies so much. Well, that about wraps it up for this video. Thank you all so much for continuing to watch and support this channel. Like I said, it really means a lot to me that you are taking time out of your day to watch my stuff. I am very grateful for that. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you're looking forward to October coming up. And until next time, this is the Maniac here to remind you that the Grindhouse will never die.